At the end of the 19th century, the Boston Cottage Company built rental cottages for African Americans to work in the city's tobacco factories. The original Boston Cottages, one of Winston-Salem's oldest, makes up just a small area of the current-day Boston-Thurmond neighborhood. Sitting outside city limits, the neighborhood was home to likely hundreds of cottages and other housing types, as well as institutions like Saints Home Methodist Church and the Boston Cottage School.
The neighborhood was close-knit because we live close together, but the streets were dirt. 13 was dirt, Thurmond Street was dirt, and in 1951 we moved from 712 13th Street up on Thurmond Street.
Funeral director Tommy Douthit and his family first lived in a shotgun house on 13th Street from 1946 to 1951, later moving to Thurmond Street. Douthit recalls some of the schools he attended over the years, including Kimberly Park and Paisley High.
They had the cows that grazed that land, because the children's home was right over west of that, and they had a dairy farm over there where they had the milk and all. They built that school in the pasture. But you had the little houses that was white, they were small. If you see over there now, you see Saints Home Church. They built that church in 1948, and right to the south of that church was the first Saints Home Church, which didn't have wooden floors in it, they had sawdust on the floor.
All of the residents, and looking at newspaper articles and church records, there was always a very strong sense of community. Families looking out for one another, children talking about how they grew up.
But as time went on, the neighborhood continued to expand and redevelop, causing disruptions among families. In the 1950s came construction of the North Cherry Street District and the University Parkway, which split the original neighborhood between Harrison and Lincoln Avenues.
The thing that really just bothered me was you put a highway in there, you cut the community off. The highway divided the community from where we could walk out 23rd to Cherry Street. Cherry Street was a main artery, and that meant that people coming in town used Cherry Street to go downtown. But people could not walk from Thurmond Street across to Cherry Street to catch the bus.
For a lot of communities, that type of physical barrier, the houses that were relocated were torn down for the highway construction or for the development of some public housing complexes. For a lot of communities in Winston-Salem and in the U.S., it really led to a significant decline in the neighborhood and loss of that culture and community. But I think it really is, it's the people who've kept kind of that spirit going, who've kept the close-knit feel, clearly very resilient families.
Today, there are only 3 cottages remaining on Thurmond Street. In an effort to preserve the neighborhood's rich history and complexity, the city is planning to place a historical marker next to Saints Home Methodist Church.
There are some aspects of the neighborhood that just were not captured in mainstream news articles or official city records, because Boston Cottages was technically outside of the city limits when it was founded. It was considered a suburb, and so a lot of records are just missing from official city documents, and so that makes it a lot more challenging to piece together the history. And that's part of why we also rely a lot on residents' memories and stories to help try to fill in some of the gaps.
On Saturday, May 20th, the Historic Resources Commission and the Boston Thurmond Engagement Roundtable are hosting a historic marker unveiling right here next to St. Home's Methodist Church to commemorate the history of Boston Cottages and how the neighborhood evolved. More details can be found at cityofws.org. I'm Sarah Mastori reporting.